in the families, in the business, in the education. If we will replace the truth of living Word of God on which this nation was built, we should be ready for the judgment which might come. And I just have this prayer for America. When enemy comes as a flood, the Spirit of living God will raise up a standard in every area of our life, in the military, in the education, in finance, in the families. Because you see, the unit of the family, it's the foundation of society. And it's a beautiful picture which is given in the book of to Ephesians, which Paul wrote from Roman prison. And he gives a beautiful picture of this unity, how this is a picture of a relationship of living God with his bride, which is house of God. And he just pictures how the husband has to love his wife as MOSHIACH love his bride. Teaching and asking, on which foundation every person builds the house. And he was mentioning a house on the rock. Then he was mentioning about house built on the sand. And the house built on the sand, he really like promise of judgment which will come, which was coming on that nation. And he just reminded the people, on which foundation are you building your house? And because he was the rock on which the Israel was built from the beginning until they turned their back on the living God. But because they built their foundation on, because they were able to build that foundation and they were standing on that rock, they were able to cross the Red Sea. Because they were standing on that rock, which cornerstone, which God promised in Isaiah 28. The walls of Jericho came down, because when Joshua was crossing to the promised land, he, as a very experienced soldier, was told with his army, just walk around the Jericho 7 times. Walk around the Jericho, because the battle belonged to the Lord, and Lord brought those walls of Jericho, and they came down. And when this nation, the birth of this nation was really God's plan, and he intervened in the birth of America in so many ways when we look in the history, because this nation was built on foundation of and the same rock, and the rock is Yeshua. The Bibles were in the foundation of many buildings in Washington. And we and the families, the unity of the family was not in so disarray as it is today. We came to understanding that really judicial tyranny, which we've seen in June, when the decision was made about marriage, even though marriage was in the beginning in the mind of living God, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is not a decision which should have been made by the 9 Supreme Court judges. And so we are facing right now in America the time where we have to look what foundation are we standing? Are we standing on the rock, or are we standing on the sand? Because if we build our house on the sand, the house will not stand when the rain will come, when the flood will come, when the winds will blow, and they will blow. And because we see what's happening in Geneva, we see what's happening with Iran, we see what's happening with North Korea. And I came from the country which also has a nuclear disaster, which was worse than Hiroshima or Nagasaki in 89. I walked to this blessed nation, which came give me a citizen, because citizenship was taken from me. But I remember how it was when information was not fair to the people. When on May 1st, after it was a disaster in the Chernobyl, the people went with the children, with the families on the parade, and then it was hitting, and now it's even taken from historical books. And this nuclear fallout. And back then, I still didn't know. I worshipped the God of materialism. But now, when I came to America, by His mercy, I respond to the call of God. And He opened my heart, and I was able to understand His mercy. And what's happened on the tree when Yeshua went on the tree, and He paid a price for the sin of whole world. And I was able to understand that that place on the tree belonged to Barabbas, and that Barabbas was me. And that Barabbas was me. And when I understood, the greatest decision in my life I made, I went on my knees and I called on His name and I invited Him in my heart. Amen. And this is the only hope for America today, when foundations are destroyed, foundations of the family, the unit of society are being destroyed. And this is the only hope for any nation. Because when the rain and flood will come,